Perfect. And I want to do the practical side of this. So we're not going to go greatly into history, other than it's inspired by and comes partly from acupuncture, acupressure, and EFT. There's variations of it. There's EFT, there's EFT energy, there's TFT, and from what I can gather, it's just somebody goes, well, if I tweak this bit, it still gets the same result, but I'll call it something else and charge people money to learn it my way. That's how I think that works. So what we're looking at is the original EFT, the emotional freedom technique, or tapping as they call it. Like I said, in America, it's been accepted as a valid therapy for dealing with emotional stuff, and but it's also good for phobias, fears, good for anxiety, stress, limiting beliefs, limiting behaviors. And what I want to do today is go through how you structure and put it all together, so as you've then got a tool and a technique that you can, one, explore and experiment with, because I think it's always good to do that, but also that will become a tool in your toolbox of things that help you with stuff in life. So it's based on tapping a number of points within the body. And these are kind of meridian points, pressure points, if you were doing martial arts. And in doing that, in Chinese medicine, emotional problems, mental kind of blocks, anxiety, stresses, it's seen to be caused by blocks in our energy system. And I've seen there's some interesting. I'll try and find it actually. I'll try and remember to find it. Someone prompt me. There's some really interesting demonstrations of a guy on YouTube um, demonstrating energy work with emotional issues and stuff. And it's only just popped into my head, but it's really quite impressive. And the way he's working with it energetically, but people are then feeling the shifts. And that's basically what we're doing with this. So it's probably not a technique you're going to use out and about in public. You're not going to stop in a supermarket and go, oh, I think I should do some EFT, because you're going to be standing there doing this and people are going to wonder what you're doing. So it's not something, but it is a technique that in a bit of, take yourself off to a bathroom somewhere and take yourself through it. And I took Fee through it the other week for something, and she was a bit like, whoa, because it really does kind of, there's a definite quick response. It's a really good technique. So I'm going to break it into the sections in the order that we do it.
With me.
So and then I'll talk you through it, and then I'll take it through it, and we'll do a generic stress relief kind of run with it, and that'll give you an idea of how you can use it. But by the end of the day, my hope is that with a little bit of practice, you'll be able to apply it to lots of things. So to start off with, when you're working with EFT, you create a statement. And the statement is, there's a few things about the statement. First of all, in this statement, you're stating what it is you want to be rid of. So today I thought we would just kind of do a general stress one, because we can all feel better for releasing a bit of stress. So in creating your statement, first of all, the thing you want to get rid of, you talk about it as though it's something you've had. Talk about it in the past tense. So rather than go, although I am stressed, or even though I am stressed, you wouldn't say that, because you're saying, well, that's happening now. So you're saying it in the past tense. So you create your statement. You can spend a little bit of time doing this, but once you get the feel of it, it doesn't take that long. So in this incident, I can't think of the word. Instance, that's the word. The statement will be around stress. And so we're talking about it in the past tense. So it'll be, even though I have had stress. So you're not saying you're stressed now, you're saying, even though I have had stress. And then the second part of the statement is, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. So that's the basic format of the statement. Even though, state the problem, but in the past tense. I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. That's it. That's it. So it could be, even though I've worried over money in the past, I deeply and profoundly accept myself. Even though I have a fear of spiders, even though I've had a fear of spiders, I deeply and profoundly accept myself. Even though I have had anger issues in the past, I deeply and profoundly accept myself. So whatever the issue is, it's even though I've had whatever it is, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. I might sneeze. I've got a tickly nose. I do apologise. So that's our first step, step 1. And I'll type this up and put it into the section in the members area. Step 1, the statement. Like I said, for us, we'll just do general stress, but you can be specific. You can explore with it. And the next thing we do, once you've got your statement, once you've got your, even though I have had stress, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself, then you scale it. So on a scale of 1 to 10, and I'm actually going to, it's good to write this down when you do it. Because when it works, and that's, say your stress is up, so when we scale it, we do 1 to 10. Very simple. 10 is stress to the eyeballs to the max. 1 and 2 is, well, not really that stressed. I'm all right. And obviously the aim is to bring it down. But write it down, because what can happen is you can write it, if you don't write it down, and maybe your stress level you say was at an 8, it's only, it's only a rough estimate, but say your stress was at an 8, then if your stress was at an 8 and you take yourself through the pattern, they call them recipes, but I would call it a pattern because that's just what I call it. And that stress then comes down to a 2, and suddenly you're feeling a lot better. It's very easy to go, well, actually, maybe I wasn't that stressed. Maybe I didn't feel that bad. Whereas if you've written down that actually my stress was a 7 or an 8 or whatever it was, then you can't deny it once you've written it down. Yeah. So it's a way of just reaffirming that when you do make that shift, you can kind of go, yeah, no, I do feel better, because before I was stressing at a 7 or an 8, and now I'm hardly stressing, I'm a 2. So it's good to write it down. So we scale where we're at. So a 1 to a 10. And that's basically the preparation work. Then comes the tapping. You're ready to go. It's one of the things I liked about this is there's not much to it, but it's quite powerful. So I'm going to take you through. I won't take you through the position. I'm going to tell you where the positions are for tapping, and get you to actually locate them for yourself. Yeah. So as you kind of, once you've done this half a dozen times, it's pretty easy to remember where they are. So if you follow me through, and our first point that we'll be tapping is, it's on the top of the head and the center of the head, and it's in the center. And if you just gently press along a line somewhere near the middle, you'll feel a point that feels maybe a little bit more sensitive or a little bit more tender when you press it. And once you've found that, that's your first tapping point. And obviously the first few times you do it, you might have to locate it first, but it is quite surprising how quickly you will be able to just put your hand there after half a dozen goes, and know the area. So that's our first point, top of the head. The second point is you come to your eye. It doesn't, and when it comes to the face, it doesn't matter whether it's the left or the right eye that we work on this. I always use the right, but you can use the left if that feels more right for you. Yeah. So top of the head. Second one, see if I'm getting close to the camera, is at the corner of the eyebrow. And if you feel along that line, you'll feel like a little nodule, a little dip in the bone, which again, if you press it gently, might be a little tender. Usually just on the edge of the eyebrow, around there somewhere. There's mine, just there. And you'll press it and it will just feel a little bit, there it is, that's mine, just there. It will just feel maybe a little bit tender if you press it, a little twinge. In fact, if you want to have your microphones on for this bit, you can let me know that you've found those points. Have you got that, Caroline? Yeah. Debbie?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, wonderful.
I think so.
That's it. Have you found that, Debbie?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like a little, like someone's took a little nick out of the bone. So that's that. Jace, you got, Jace on mute still. And Sally, so that's there. The next point is the corner of the eye, so in here. And again, if you feel around, you can feel that bit where there's just a little indent. So that's our third position. We tap that one there. Then we move from there to under the eye, and it's quite handy. I've got a little bag under my eye, which you can see on the camera. Follow that round to about there, and just on the edge of the eye socket, again, you'll feel a little notch. That's maybe a little tender if you press it. Don't press it too hard. I mean, these all feel like quite little small points, but actually there's a way of doing it so you're pretty well guaranteed to hit it. I want to go through them. So feel around, find that little notch on the eye socket, and that's another meridian, that's another energy point. I think we'll assume we've all got that one. Then we come under the nose, and it's a bit hard with mustache. It's about midway between your nose and the top of your lip. If you run your finger down, you'll feel it when you go over it because it feels a little bit more sensitive. That's our next one. So upper lip. From there,
Not sure if I've got that one.
it's a little trickier to find, but if you kind of line your finger up, I'll use a different finger, otherwise it looks like I'm being. Line your finger up with your nose, and then slide it down the center, and you'll just come to a point. Mine is just above the gum line if it was on the inside, and it's just a point where it's just a little bit. Like I say, there's a way that we'll tap it where you're going to be pretty well guaranteed to be hitting the spot. So that's about midway down there. Next one's midway down the chin, again with a beard. It's kind of, you slide down the middle of your chin and you get to a point and you'll feel, it just feels again a little bit more tender, a little bit more sensitive if you press on the chin. Actually, that one makes the bottom of my chin itch when I press it. That's funny. So there's the chin. The next point is, forgive me, do my top button to show you. So you got your collarbone, and again, this can be, let's move that out of the way, it can be either side. Follow the line of your collarbone to the edge. And if you press on the edge either side, you'll notice it's a little bit more sensitive. So edge of the collarbone.
What, by the bumps, or
yeah, if you follow it round, you get the end of it, just those bumps there.
Yeah,
it's around there, and again, you only have to use the one hand, you don't have to use two. The final one is, final one for this part is down under the armpit, but not under the armpit. You follow it down like the seam of your shirt or whatever to the guy that I trained with described it for ladies. It's pretty well where the bra strap will sit. Jace, you and me won't know what that's like. Well, I'm presuming. But But if you follow that line down like the seam of your shirt down the middle, there is a point where it dips a little bit. And again, if you press it, it feels a little bit tender. That one can take a little bit of playing around with to find. But once you've got it again, you pretty well know where it is. And then there's one other point. Now, this one I know you'll all find very easily. There are more in the second part of this, but these are the first ones. The next part is called the karate chop point, and it's literally, if you follow down from your finger to where that fleshy part is on the base of your hand, if you imagine doing a karate chop, it's that part there. And if you'll run along it, just keep pressing, you'll find again a point where it feels just a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more tender. And that's called the karate chop point, or K chop point, as gets said. Yeah. So I'll quickly run through those again. You've got the top of the head point.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do this, I'll talk it through and let everyone have time to find it. Top point. In fact, I pretty well went straight to that. And if I press it, I can feel it a little bit tender. Corner of the eyebrow. Edge of the eyebrow. Corner of the eye. Under the eye. Beneath the nose. Midway on the chin. Collarbone. And then under the arm. You can see why you wouldn't necessarily do this in public. So those are our main points. There's 3 parts to this. The first part is creating your statement and deciding on what level you are as far as the thing you want to get rid of. So if it's a fear of spiders and you freak out if you see one, that's probably a 9. So you've scaled it, you've got your statement. And then we go through a tapping sequence, which actually starts with this one. And how should I do it? I'll demonstrate it by myself, but then I'll take us all through it at the end, because I'll do the 2 parts together at the end. So you'd get yourself ready for your session. You'd take a few deep breaths. And then you'd start, first of all, on the karate chop point. And the way you can do it, you can either cross your fingers. Some people do that with their fingers, which gives quite a fine point. Usually the 2 fingers. Or if you do both side by side and hit in the general area, you will be making contact with that point. So it gives you a bit more freedom of not having to be exactly spot on every time. But like I say, it's amazing how quickly, if you do this, you will start hitting those points. So you'd start. Now, I'll use the statement. You've got your statement, you've scaled it up. And so the session would then go like this. You'd start tapping here at a moderate pace, and you're not thumping it, but it's not that gentle that you can't feel it. And to start the session, you repeat your statement 5 times whilst tapping the karate chop point on the hand. So in this case, even though I have had stress, I knowingly love and accept myself. And you do that 5 times. And then what you do is you take the key words of the statement and you tap it. So you kind of would start on your head and you'd tap each point about 5 to 7 times. And on that first tap, you'd just say stress. And then you move to the next one, stress. Then to the one at the side of the eye, stress. 5 to 7 times underneath the eye, stress. Underneath the nose, stress. It's harder to say that one when I'm doing that. Stress. Chin, stress. You just say it out loud, just the once, tap 5, 7 times. Collarbone, stress. Under the armpit, same again, stress. and then you come back to the karate chop point and you say it again, stress, but this time tap that point about 15 to 20 times. It'd be like stress. And that is the pattern. That is part 2, which once you've done a few times is really very easy to remember, of the basic EFT approach. And once you do that, you've done that your 15, 20 times, you stop, and then you try and focus on your stress. You try and see how stressed you're feeling now. And you'll notice that sometimes that stress level will have just dropped, just on one run through. It'll have just dropped completely. Other times you might go through that sequence and then think, yeah, no, I'm maybe now I'm about 6, it's come down, but I want it to go down further. So you repeat the sequence. I knowingly love, even though I've had stress, I know it, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself 5 times, and run through the sequence again until that figure, till your stress level or that feeling of fear, anger, frustration, whatever it is you're getting rid of, has come right down. And it can be, if you're working with something that's a bit bigger, a bit more ingrained, it might take a number of sessions, but you can do this. But you can sit there. I've not had to yet, but the guy that I learned from was saying some of the things he used it to deal with in his life. He would spend a week, and every day he'd be doing it for half an hour, working on that until it came down for him. It was where he wanted it to be. So some things you'll do it once, twice, 3 times. Yeah, it won't in a moment. Sometimes it will drop really quickly, like I said. Other times you might have to take long. You might take 10 minutes. You might have to take half an hour. And you might want to do a number of sessions. Or the other thing you can do with this is kind of look at an aspect of your life. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's an area of your life where, let's say whenever you go out, you get anxious and you're not very confident. And so it kind of stops you enjoying that so much. Well, you can work on both of those. So you could set it up. So you kind of, which of those feels like the right thing to work on first? Well, actually, if I work on the maybe the lack of confidence first, then if I'm feeling more confident, I won't then feel so anxious. So you could do that. Even though I have had a lack of confidence in the past, or even though I have had a lack of confidence, I know I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. And having gauged where you think that lack of confidence is. If it's a 10, you want to get it down to a 1, because if you've only got a 1% lack of confidence, then that's a whole lot better. So you can use it for different things. Are there any questions about that part before I go on to the closing part?
I need to write it all down.
Well, there's a PDF in the members area which has got a diagram with all the points on, and I will write up. I've got a few notes there just to remind myself and prompt myself. I'll basically type those up. And it's basically step 1, step 2, step 3. Really just break it down, remind you of the points, remind you of what you're doing where. And that's one of the things I loved about this was, 1, it was so simple, and 2, when I first tried it, it was like, oh, that has made a difference.
Yeah.
So
I'll have a go at this.
Yeah, no, and like I keep trying it. I'm wondering what you can and cannot, what will it and will it not work on. That's what's intriguing me. If you're of a say you're of a religious persuasion and you've gone through a period where your faith has kind of dropped and you've had a lack of faith, is it possible then to use this? Even though I have had a lack of faith, I knowingly love. In theory, it should then help with you to make those new connections to start building that sense of faith back up. So I'm intrigued as to how many ways this can be applied and what you can apply it to. But the beauty of EFT is, even if you just go through the sequences, I mean, even if you just sit here and tap that part of your hand, whilst not feeling much about anything, after a short while, when you stop, you naturally start to feel more relaxed anyway. You know, if you choose something and either you've not quite nailed the statement or it's something that EFT won't work, the worst thing that's going to happen is maybe you've spent 10 minutes tapping yourself. You're going to relax, if nothing else. So in that way, you can't do any harm or damage by experimenting with this, by trying it and applying it to different areas. You know, things like memory. If you find that you've not got the greatest memory, I haven't looked into it yet. I could just do the research and Google it. But actually, it's fun to explore these things and experiment with them and see what differences they make. Personally, other people might just Google it. So I'm going to turn this over. This next bit out of the two, I think feels the most, the little bit more random, a little bit more odd, but it's good fun. I've missed some out. I've actually missed quite a bit out. Let me jump back. So we get to this point. What order is that in? Let me think. Hang on. Right, let's go back. First time I've taken anyone through this, and although I can do it automatically now, I'm having to retrace. So back to our original tap-in sequence. I missed some out. You've done the underarm, and then you go on to the hand. So basically, probably the opposite hand to which you've been tapping with. So on the hand, you tap on the inside of the thumb, and if you press it, there is a point along there where you'll feel that tenderness again. So you're tapping there. In fact, I feel it more when I do it like that. Tapping there, the outside of the index finger. Forgive this next one. The outside of the middle finger. Skip the ring finger, and you tap the little finger. Yeah? So outside of the thumb, finger, no, sorry, inside of the thumb, finger, finger, little finger, skipping that one. Don't know why, because if you do EFT energy, they include that one, but and then you go to the karate chop point for 15 to 20 times. Yeah?
Does it really matter if you miss one out by accident?
It's not going to, I mean...
Can I just reduce the number of places I've got to remember to tap? Because I'm already feeling really confused.
Well, that's like I say, that's why I'm recording it, because then you can watch it back, and also I'll put the notes up and a list of the places, and you can do it. It's surprising.
Down, but there's no way I'm going to remember them all, because guess what? I've got memory issues.
Maybe tap it. But yeah, I'll write it all down. I mean, there's no harm if you're doing this for yourself. If you were doing this as an EFT practitioner, you'd want to look professional and know it all, but there's nothing wrong with having a cue card in front of you and just following the points off the cue card. You know, have it written down on something and just follow it that way. If you're doing it for yourself, that's not a problem. It's only if you were, you know, charging people and they were coming to you, they wouldn't expect you to be sitting there reading off a card. But we'll go through it again, like I say, and I'll put this video up and I will put the notes up as well. So I'm going to run through that midsection all again very quickly, just to point it all together. So it's the top of the head, corner of the eyebrow, it's the edge of the eyebrow, I should say, really, I suppose. Corner of the eye, below the eye, straight onto it this time, beneath the nose, beneath the chin, collarbone, under the arm.
I can't reach that.
It's a tricky one, that one is. And then inside of the thumb, outside of the index finger, outside of the middle finger, little finger, back to here. So that's that sequence. So moving on, if we're, for now, like I say, I'll take us through the whole thing. We'll actually do it all together. Moving on, you've done that sequence. Maybe once through was enough and you actually feel better for it. Maybe it's taken 5 minutes, maybe you've done 10 minutes. But you get down, you're aiming to get that sensation of whatever it is down to around about a 2-ish level. Yeah? If it goes completely brilliant, but if you think, if you were having 90% pain, and you can use this for pain, by the way, if you were having 90% pain and suddenly it's dropped to 20%, how much better is that going to feel? You know what I mean? So if you can get it gone completely, brilliant. But if you get it to about a 2 or a 3, that's really good. Yeah, if your stress level's at 90% and all of a sudden within 5 minutes you've dropped it to 2 or 3%, or 20 or 30%, that's still a lot of improvement for you. So imagine that we've gone through the sequence, we've done the thing, and we're feeling, because we're talking about stress, we're now feeling, what stress? I feel great. So then what you do is you install it. I don't like that word, but actually is the best way. You go through this next process, which helps install it and make that now, in the same way as with hypnosis, you'll install stuff, you'll make some changes, and you'll then program or install them, make sure that new behavior, that new way of thinking, feeling is taken on board. And that's what we do with this next sequence. This next sequence, like you say, I personally find slightly odd, but and it's, in fact, even on the training, they couldn't quite convince me as to why it works, but it does. So what you do involves, sorry about this, Sally, another point, but you'll be glad to know it's just the same one throughout the whole of this process. Now, if you take your hand and follow the line between your ring finger and your little finger down the middle there, you'll come to a point and there's a bit of a hollow somewhere around there, yeah? Now that is known as the gamut point. And it's a really good point. You can use that if you want to. This was one of the in my a lot of the hypnosis training I was doing. One of the guys said it. You can use that if you kind of want to feel good. You can kind of tap it, going, "I'm awesome. I'm amazing. I feel great. I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling really good." And you do that for a couple of minutes, and then go, and you, I've just punched the table. And actually, it does pick you up, as you know. So if you're feeling a bit low, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling positive, I'm feeling ready to deal with the day, and it will help shift your state. It's good for that. What we're going to use it for is what they call the closing installation, for want of a better word. And what you do, you've gone through your sequence, you've brought your stress down, or whatever it is you've been dealing with, and you start by tapping that gamut point. You'll tap it half a dozen times, 5 to 7 times, say, and then you close your eyes and you tap it another 5 to 7 times. Then you open your eyes and tap it 5 to 7 times. Then you look down to the right, keeping tapping 5 to 7 times. Eyes forward again. Look down to the left. Keep tapping. Then you roll your eyes in one direction. Doesn't matter which direction first. I always go left first, but it doesn't matter. And then once you've gone one way, you go the other way, tapping as you do it. And what this is doing is you're using different, what's the word? I was going to say modalities. It's not quite the word. You're using different aspects. So you're using your sight, you're using your feeling, in the same way as we all learn differently. You know, some people are more visual, some people are more auditory, some people are more kinesthetic. You're basically engaging all those elements in this process to help install and take on board what you've just done. So we're still tapping. We've rolled left, we've rolled our eyes right. This is the bit that you can choose any tune for this, but when I was taught it, he used Happy Birthday. And I'm just like, he used Happy Birthday. I just feel a right idiot humming Happy. You basically tap it while singing for 5 seconds Happy Birthday. So be, which I couldn't take seriously. So I changed it I used the Great Escape, you know, because that to me just felt, you know what I mean? That's a bit more, yes, I'm making a change. I'm doing something rather than Happy Birthday. But it can be any tune. It can just be a favorite. It can be a favorite pop song, a favorite blues song, a favorite whatever song. You just hum it. And that's the auditory part. So you're tapping whilst you hum at the same pace. I'm going to use the one I like. And that's roughly 5 seconds. Then you count out loud, whilst tapping, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you hum your tune again. And then there's a little meditation thing that the guy that I learned from added on the end, which is actually really quite nice. But as far as the tapping goes, that then is the whole procedure. You get your statement, you assess 1 to 10 where it's at, you go through the sequence of tapping to bring it down, and when you feel that you've made a shift on that and you're feeling better, more relaxed, less angry, whatever it is you're dealing with, or you can look at a picture of a spider on the screen and not be freaked out. You know, there's ways of testing these things. When you're feeling that and you're feeling like, yeah, no, that's a better place I'm in now, then you do that final sequence. And then the final part that this guy ends with, and it's really nice, is it's just a simple kind of meditation where you bring your hand up over your heart and you breathe, but you don't breathe unnaturally, but you breathe a little deeper than your normal breath. And with your eyes closed, just natural but slightly deeper breaths. Being aware of the heart and the breath and the mind. And when we take time to consciously be aware of our heart and the rhythm of our heart, neuroscience has shown that mind and body, the wavelength that the frequency that they're putting out at, starts to come into line, come into balance. And as you allow that balance to happen, just take a few moments. And then when you feel that that's a long enough time, then you stop. And it's amazing. It's quite only a few minutes of that actually is quite grounding, quite centering. That's a lot of stuff to throw at you, just like that. As Sally said, lots of points to remember. But like I said, when it comes to experimenting with this, there is nothing wrong with having it written out in front of you to remind you. You know, just that's what I've done today. I know it, but this is the first time I've shared it with people. So rather than take the risk, and even with notes, I missed a bit out. So, you know, having those those key points, and it is surprising how quickly it kind of. I'm already. It's been a few months now, and if I'm doing it myself or talking to someone else through it, it actually flows quite quickly, and it's quite. It's amazing how quickly you remember those points. So, any questions before we? I'm going to put my glasses on because now I'm on pin. That's it. I can see everyone a little bit clearer. Any questions before we go into running a complete session with it?
This bit here.
Hold your hand up to the camera so I can see the karate chop point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Where? I'm not sure I've got it. Is it there?
Yeah. If you go down, there's basically on the flat on the underside of your hand. There's a fleshy part, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically the fleshy part of the hand down there.
Okay.
On that side.
Oh, there. That feels. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll know when you get it because after a few taps, it kind of almost gets sometimes like a little achy feel.
Yeah.
Well, mine does. I don't know if everyone else's does. But that also, just doing that will help relaxation after a while. So, I'm going to ask you all to pop your microphones on. Don't have to put your videos on, but your microphones on. There's Debbie, Jason, Sally there. Oh, there you go. Mainly because there are certain bits of this you do have to do out loud. And I want to make sure no one's cheating and hiding with their microphones off. However, if your camera's off, I only have your word that you're going through the motions. So, let's jump back. So, like I said, we'll use this session for reducing our levels of how stressed we're feeling. And so to start that, I'm going to ask you just take a moment and just kind of check in with yourself and just see how stressed you're feeling in general with life at this moment in time. And then I'm going to ask you one at a time on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being really chilled out, in which case this is just going to chill you out some more. 10 being really mega stressed at the moment. Where on the scale of 1 to 10 would you say your stress level is at the moment? We'll start with Sally. I'm just working across as people appear on the screen. Sally, where would you say your stress levels are at the moment? 1 to 10.
7.
Was that a 7?
Yeah.
Okay. Caroline.
I'm not so stressed at the moment. I'm about a 5.
Okay. So, but if it came down a couple of more steps, you'd notice that and feel even. Yeah, that's a thumbs up. Wonderful. Jason.
4.
A 4. So if that dropped a couple more, you'd feel good for that. Yeah, you'd notice that.
Yeah.
And Debbie.
I'm a 7.
Okay. So we've got a 7, a 4, a 7, and a 5. I've written them down. They are recorded. Fabulous. So our statement for this, and I'll walk us through it and we'll talk it through it. We'll just go through the whole procedure together. Yeah. And we'll repeat it a couple of times for the middle bit so as you get more familiar with it. The statement we're going to use, and we'll be saying it out loud first. So remember, you say it out loud 5 times whilst tapping the karate chop point. And then when you move through the points, you just say the key word, or it might be a couple of words. Yeah. But for this, it's just going to be stressed or stress. So the statement is, even though I have had stress, I knowingly love and accept, not knowingly, sorry, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. Yeah? So I'll go through that again. Even though I have had stress, we're saying it in the past tense, I deeply and profoundly
Profoundly
and accept myself.
love and
Yeah.
accept myself.
So let's do this. So first point, karate chop point. We're going to say that statement out loud together 5 times. Start tapping. Even though I have had stress, I deeply and profoundly
love
and accept myself.
love
Perfect.
myself.
And again, even though
No,
I have had
I have
stress,
had stress.
I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself.
Love and accept myself.
Even though I've had stress,
Even though I've had stress,
I deeply
I deeply
and profoundly love and accept
love
myself.
and accept myself.
Even though I've had stress,
Even though I have had
I
stress,
deeply and profoundly
deeply and profoundly
love and accept
myself.
So moving up to that point on the top of the head, once you've found it, we're going to tap that 5 to 7 times and just say the word stress. Stress.
Stress.
Moving to the point on the eyebrow. Stress.
Stress.
Corner of the eye. Stress.
Stress.
Under the eye.
Stress.
That's it. You've got the gist of this. Under the nose. Stress.
Stress.
Under the chin. Stress.
Stress.
Collarbone. Stress.
Stress.
Under the arm. Stress.
Stress.
I mean, if you can't reach around with that one, if it's easier to tap like that, then obviously do that. Inside of the thumb, stress.
Stress.
Outside of the index finger, stress.
Stress.
Outside the middle finger, stress.
Stress.
Little finger, stress.
Stress.
Karate chop point, stress, and tap it about 15, 20 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Take a moment's breath. And just check in with that feeling. Try and find that stress. And just on a scale of 1 to 10, how's that feeling now? Sally?
I'd say about a 4 because I'm just feeling really tired now.
Okay, it does that actually. That's one thing I will say for this is because it does relax you as well, it can make you feel a bit tired when you do it. Sometimes I've noticed. So a 4, Jason was next. Jason, where did you say yours is now?
2.
A 2, I mean, that's brilliant. Debbie?
6.
So is that 6? Yep. Caroline?
4, but I am slightly anxious about what I'm going to hum.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. So we're going to run through it one more time through, and then we'll do the sealing in bit. So actually, we just start at the top of the head the second time through. So tapping, stress,
Stress.
half a dozen times. Eyebrow, stress.
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 Remember, this is about letting it go, shifting it. Corner of the eye, stress.
Stress.
Under the eye, stress.
Stress.
Under the nose, stress.
Stress.
Chin, stress.
Stress.
Collarbone, stress.
Stress.
Under the armpit,
Stress.
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 Inside of the thumb, stress.
Stress.
Index finger, stress.
Stress.
Middle finger,
Stress.
little finger,
Stress.
and finally here again, stress. About 15, 20 taps. Take a moment. And sometimes you might feel it's more, it's right to do more, but 5 to 7 taps is usual for this. Just checking in now. Where's those stress levels now? Sally. That just sounds very relaxed.
I'm falling asleep.
You're falling asleep. So in all fairness, we tend not to fall asleep when we're stressed. So I'm going to say I'm going to just put falling asleep, as I think that's a good gauge. Caroline, where are you now?
I'm feeling sleepy too.
Okay.
So we'll go for 3.
Okay, so that's come down nicely, a couple for you. Debbie, what about yourself?
I think I'll come down another 1.
Okay, so there's a 5. I can't almost do the sums. And I mean, we're only going through this to get a feel for it. But obviously, if you're doing it yourself, if you're coming down a 1 each time, then you repeat it until you get to a level that you that's better. And Jace, I mean, you're 1. Wow, fabulous. Okay, so now we go through. Just to remind it. Now we go through the installing, the what they call the closing procedure. So we start with on this point here. Debbie's put the sleep sign up. The gamut point, that little dip in between the little finger and the index finger.
Oh yeah.
It is, yeah. And we start tapping, nice, comfortable, firm but not hard, steady pace, facing forward. First of all, close your eyes for 5 to 7 taps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Open your eyes, keep tapping. Now look down to the right. 7 taps, 5 to 7. Back forward. Eyes to the left. 5 to 7. Roll the eyes in one direction. Looking around the room, and then the other direction. Looking around the room. Now we're going to hum our tune. And then counting out loud 1 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4,
4,
5,
5,
and out loud backwards. 5,
5,
3,
4,
2,
3,
1.
1.
Hum our tune. Take a nice deep breath. And then bring the hands up to the heart. And again, just focus on that sensation of a slightly deeper breath. And the awareness of your heart, the rhythm of your heart, the beating of your heart. And as your mind focuses in on the heart, it can begin to fall in sync, bringing in a sense of balance and a sense of peace and harmony. That's right. And then when you're ready, open your eyes and have a wriggle. So how's everyone feeling?
sleepy.
Sleepy. That's a good thing. It's the evening. We're allowed to feel sleepy. And Sally's back with us. So I'm going to stop the video part recording now, because that's everything we need to be able to go through it and pick all the bits out and everything. And you can always ask questions in the forum about any section of it, but it means you just have a chance to ask your own questions or just feel sleepy, whichever's best. So I'm going to stop the video here.